All right, what is going on, guys? UFC 310 has ended, and this is going to be the fights to make after UFC 310. We got some losers, we got mostly winners right here, and I'm going to be going starting with Chase Hooper gets a dominant first round win over the old man of Clay Guida. I think this puts him on a 4 or 5 fight win streak. I can't remember exactly. He needs one more solid test before we give him somebody in the top 15. And there's a lot of fighters in the lightweight division who need like 1 to 2 more fights, and then they can fight somebody in the top 15. I'm going to be giving him a former top 15 ranked opponent in Drew Dober. And I understand this would be the best fighter of his career he's faced. Drew Dober does kind of have a hole in his game as far as the grappling, and he's getting kind of older. He's 36 years old. But I still think that this would be the best competition that Hooper has faced yet, and Dober has faced way better grapplers in the past than Chase Hooper. So, I'm not saying that Chase Hooper is bad at grappling. I'm just saying, like, I think Moicano is probably a better grappler than Hooper. But, and Islam. Anyway, I think that'd be a solid fight. If Hooper can get past him, then after that, give him somebody in the top 15. Moving on, Joshua Van gets a very dominant decision win. Well, yeah, I'll say it's very dominant. Pretty much dominated him in the second and third round. First round was somewhat competitive, and you could have given the first round to Van. I can't remember if one of the judges did or not. But very good win by Stephen Van. Or Joshua Van. I don't know why I said Stephen Van. And I think the perfect step up in competition for Joshua Van is the gatekeeper of the top 10 himself, Tim Elliott. Tim Elliott, crafty veteran, been in there with just about everybody in the flyweight division over several generations of fighters. I think Tim Elliott will be a very solid test for Joshua Van. If he can get, especially with how shallow the flyweight division, let me rephrase it. The flyweight division is very talent rich, but Pantoja has beat almost everybody in the top 15. So it's shallow for Pantoja because he needs fresh competition. So you get Joshua Van a win over Tim Elliott, and then like a win over someone 9-1, give him a title shot. I think that'd be a really good fight. Elliott's got some good grappling, so there'd be another grappler to test Joshua Van's takedown defense and submission defense, and he's got some awkward, funky striking, Elliott that is. So that'd be a very fun matchup in the future. Hopefully they get that made. Moving up, we have Vicente Luque. Just beat the shit out of Themba in like 50 seconds. Subbed him in the first round. Dropped him. Hurt him badly. Got the anaconda choke. Luque took no damage. And I like his call out of Jorge Masvidal. I think I would favor Luque to win that fight. He wants that fight. Masvidal, I'm sure, wouldn't mind having that fight because it would immediately get him back into the rankings at welterweight if he would get a win over Vicente Luque. But I think Masvidal's like 39 or 40 years old, so he's kind of old and washed up. And Luque, even though he got this win, I don't think he's going to be competing with the elite at welterweight. So I think this would be a solid, fun fight. That on that Miami card, I think it's in a Miami card. I can't remember. It's a card in Florida that's happening that Masvidal wants to return, and I believe it to be Miami. Luque said he would like to fight on that card. Just go ahead and make it. Then after, assuming Luque beats Masvidal, then give him a step up in competition in the welterweight rankings. Moving up, we have Brian Battle gets, I think, was it a split decision? It was a split decision win, if I remember correctly, over Randy Brown. Look, if he wouldn't have missed weight, even getting a split decision, I would say, okay, I think it's time. Give Brian Battle someone on like the 10 through 15 rankings in welterweight. But he needs to prove to me that he can make weight. I think he needs to get one more fight, get one more win, make welterweight, and then give him somebody in the top 15. I kind of went back and forth. There was a couple different welterweights I was contemplating giving to Brian Battle. I ended up with Jake Matthews. Matthews, even though he's been in the UFC for a long time, He's not that old. I believe he's like 30, 31 years old. He doesn't fight he's not super active, maybe like 1 to 2 times a year. So Battle seems to be like a pretty active fighter. I believe he fought 3 or 4 times in 2024. I think it was 3 times at least. So I could see them making this fight in maybe like March or April. I think this would be a solid fight to put. Really, this would be good for a main card of a fight night or the headliner of a prelims on a pay-per-view, assuming Brian Battle can make weight. And maybe the UFC will punish him because he did miss weight. So prove to the fans and to the UFC that he can make 170, beat Jake Matthews, and then after that, he can get somebody in the top 15. Moving on, Dominic Reyes got the win over Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith needs to retire. He kind of faked a retirement a little bit in his post-fight speech, which I'm kind of surprised they gave him one. I think they gave him one because they felt bad that his longtime friend, trainer, and coach had passed away. Nonetheless, they gave him one. Now, I contemplated who I wanted to give Dominic Reyes to, but if you guys watched, I think it was my last Fights to Make video, you already know who I'm giving to Dominic Reyes, and that is Volkan Ozdemir. I said in that video, the winner of Anthony Smith, Dominic Reyes, to fight Volkan Ozdemir. I already had that lined up. I think this is a good, natural progression. I don't want to just throw Dominic Reyes up in there with the top 5. Although I don't want to say he has earned it, because, I mean, he's beaten Anthony Smith and Dustin Jacoby. So they're not like super elite level light heavyweights. I think if you get him in there with Volkan Ozdemir and he doesn't get knocked out and he can get a win over Volkan Ozdemir, then give him somebody in that top 5. And then if they can beat them, then you could give him whoever's the champion at the time. Hopefully Pereira. Well, maybe not hopefully for Reyes, but I would love to see Pereira be a long-reigning light heavyweight champion. And then this would be a good solid fight, good natural step up in competition. Moving up, we have Bryce Mitchell. You know who I'm going to pick. Doo Ho Choi. Doo Ho Choi called him out in his post-fight. And, honestly, Bryce Mitchell gets a win over Kron Gracie, who's an absolute can. Like, he has jiu-jitsu, and that's it. Like, you're pulling guard in MMA. Like, I'm a jiu-jitsu person. I train jiu-jitsu. I like watching jiu-jitsu. You can't do that shit in MMA. You cannot pull guard. I saw a tweet. I don't know if it was a real tweet or fake. It was from, I can't remember. It was one of the Gracies, tweeted, pulling guard in an MMA fight is something you never do. And, you don't pull guard in an MMA fight. Not that Doo Ho Choi 100% deserves to fight a ranked opponent. I just think it would be a decent fight. He's showing improvements in his grappling, so maybe he could keep it standing on the feet. And Doo Ho Choi has better striking than Bryce Mitchell. So maybe that would put some fresh contenders in the featherweight division if he could get a win over Bryce Mitchell. If not, if Bryce Mitchell gets the win, then you could look at giving him somebody above him in the rankings in his next fight after that. I think this would be a solid fight. Moving up, Movsar Evloev gets the win over Aljamain Sterling. Some people online seems to have some controversy with it, thinking that Aljo won. Listen, I 100%, I said this in my predictions video, I wanted Aljo to win that fight. I thought Movsar was going to absolutely ragdoll him and throw him around, and actually ended up being the other way around. Aljo was doing the more big, when it comes to grappling and takedowns, he was getting the big moments, the big slams. I think he had 2 or 3 slams in the fight. This is the part that I don't like, kind of. So, I think Movsar undoubtedly deserves to fight for the belt next. But they're going to do Volk next. He deserves his immediate rematch, even though we all know he's going to get knocked out again. Unfortunately, I don't want to see it, but that's just what's going to happen. So, in the meantime, I think we need to have a clear number 1 contender, and I think most of you know where I'm going with this. That is Diego Lopez. They fought before. Movsar clearly won. It was a competitive fight. It was on short notice for Diego Lopez. I think what you do is you have both of them fight again. The winner of that fight fights for the winner of Volk and Ilya, which is most likely going to be Ilya. So either way, I think if it was Movsar versus Ilya or Movsar versus Lopez, I think Lopez would be the more exciting fight, personally. And I think he has the fans behind him more than Mobstar does. But I think both will be very fun, exciting, competitive fights with Ilya or Volk. You know, if Volk goes in there and can be perfect for 25 minutes and get the decision win over Ilya, I don't think Ilya deserved, even though he beat Max Holloway Volk back-to-back by knockout, I don't necessarily think he has earned an immediate rematch. I think he needs to get one more win, and then he could get a rematch with whoever's the champ, or a fight for the belt again, I guess, if Volk's not the champ. But in the meantime, have these two fight, then they can fight the winner of Volk and Ilya. And heck, you might even be able to make it on the same card depending when they have that fight go down. Moving up, Alexander Volkov got a brutal robbery loss to Cyril Gane. I'm giving him a good matchup, a good solid matchup in the top 5. That's Curtis Blades. They fought before. This would be a rematch. I believe he lost via unanimous decision, but that was years ago. Volkov has improved tremendously in that time. He should have got the win over Cyril Gane. He was robbed of the win, so I'm rewarding him with a good matchup. I hope the UFC gives him a nice high-level matchup in his next fight. If they want to feed him some bum, that would be fine as well. But I think the Curtis Blades rematch would be fun. Both have improvements. Blades has shown that he's gotten better on the feet, even though he's kind of been knocked out a couple times recently. But he does have the grappling. So I think this would be a very fun and exciting rematch. Great addition to a pay-per-view. You could do this would be a good Fight Night main event like the Apex. Or I mean, really anywhere. You could really do that anywhere. Like, I'd pay money to go see that fight. Moving up the card, Cyril Gane. Now, I'm punishing Cyril Gane because he got the robbery win. Jailton Almeida. Assuming Jailton Almeida wins, obviously if Spivak wins, I don't think you can do the rematch between Gane and Spivak. But I'm very confident that Jailton Almeida will be able to beat Spivak, which is that this weekend? This upcoming weekend? I believe that is this weekend. So we'll find out this weekend. Assuming Jailton Almeida wins, you do him versus Cyril Gane. But I'm not 100% sure when Gane's going to be returning because I saw a picture that he posted online of he's got like a bunch of spots in his foot that are broken. So who knows when he's going to return. I'm assuming the UFC is going to do John Jones versus Tom Aspinall. So assuming they get that done, Gane needs to fight someone in the meantime. And if he gets a win over Jailton Almeida, then give him a title shot again. I mean, at that point, he would have earned it, even though he got a robbery win over Volkov. He would have beat Jailton Almeida and Spivak. Is that it? I think that's it. So yeah, I think that'd be a good fight. Hopefully Jailton Almeida could sub him if they did make that fight. Moving up, Ian Machado Gary loses to Shavkat Rakhmonov in the co-main event. Looked great. Honestly, like if there was one more round, I know this was a 5-round fight, so there's not going to be a 6 or a 7-round fight. If there was another round or two, I think Gary wouldn't have been able to finish him. He looked way fresher in the 5th round. I think his technical striking is better than Shavkat's, and he showed to have good grappling as well. I am, however, going to be giving him someone down in the rankings that is a very fan favorite. That is Carlos Pratas. I think you get Carlos Pratas in there and you get him high up in the rankings, get him to a title shot. He's a very exciting fighter, always going for getting finishes, going for knockouts. And this was a very good striking matchup between the two. And you never know. Gary might even try to implement the grappling. We've never really seen Pratas try to be heavily grappled against. Not that Gary super grapples in his fights, except for the MVP fight. That was the only fight in my recent memory that he was heavily in the grappling department. So I think that'd be a very fun, exciting striking matchup between the two. You could get Gary back in the win column or get Carlos Pratas up in the rankings. Moving up, Shavkat Rakhmonov, you know who we're picking. It's Bilal Muhammad. He deserves a title shot. Now, I did see something online, and I don't know if it's true or not. That's why I just went ahead and set this fight in place. That Shavkat went into this fight with a torn MCL. If that is the case, he might actually be out for a while. And we might not get this fight. A title shot might be his next fight, but it might not be versus Bilal Muhammad. So, if it's going to take him, 6-8 months from now to be able to fight, we need Bilal to fight before then. So we'll have to have Bilal match up with somebody else, which, I mean, if Buckley gets a win over Colby Covington this weekend, he definitely would be, either him or JDM would really be about it in that, like, top 10, 5-ish. I mean, Burns is coming off of a loss. Usman's, dropped 3 in a row. Who else is up there? Shavkat, obviously. Colby, if he beats Buckley, he's going to cry and whine for a title shot, which he doesn't deserve. He needs at least 2 to 3 more wins to earn a title shot. So yeah, we'd probably be looking at like a Buckley or JDM fighting Bilal Muhammad if Shavkat's going to be out for 6 to 8 months. But nonetheless, Shavkat's next fight needs to be for the title, whenever that may be. Moving up, co-main event, Kai Asakura loses second round rear naked choke. Perfectly predicted by myself. Look, I think you still need to give him a high-ranked flyweight. And he kind of got beat a little bit, but he didn't. I don't know exactly how much damage he exactly took. I'm going to give him somebody in the top 5, and that is Amir Albazi. I think this would be a solid test. I know Albazi's kind of a grappler as well. But in his last fight against Brandon Moreno, it showed that he's not as, I don't want to say he's not as good as we thought, but I guess maybe just Moreno has better grappling than we thought. Moreno was stuffing his takedowns, so maybe Kai Asakura could as well, and get him a win in the top 5 of the flyweight division. Get him a couple more wins, and then maybe he could fight for the belt again. I think this would be a good matchup. I thought about giving him Brandon Moreno, but Moreno's done more, I think, in the division. Obviously, he's a 2-time champion, than Albazi. So I think Albazi needs to prove himself against, I wouldn't say up and coming, but, he fought for the belt and lost. Good fight. I think that'd be a solid fight. Moving on. Main event. Now, I'm going to explain my pick because nobody's going to see this pick coming of who I'm picking to fight Alexander Pantoja next. It's kind of weird and kind of out there, so I understand if you're like, what the fuck? He called for Demetrius Johnson. That's not going to happen. Demetrius is not going to come out of retirement. Another thing, I can't remember if he called for this or not. This would be my personal top choice for Pantoja, and that is to go up and challenge for the 135 title. He has cleared out his division. He's beaten several opponents multiple times. Top opponents. He's beaten Roval twice. Moreno, what has he beaten him? 3 or 4 times, including the Ultimate Fighter. I can't remember exactly. He's beaten Kai Kara-France. I know Kai Kara-France is, give me a title shot. Dude, you beat Steve Erceg. I understand Steve Erceg fought for the belt and lost to Pantoja. Get one more win, dude. I don't know. There's no way he deserves a title shot off a 1-fight win streak over Steve. It's a good win. Don't get me wrong. Steve Erceg is a great win, but you don't need a title shot off of 1 win. I know that the UFC's done that in the past, but I think there's one person in the flyweight division. He's on a long win streak, not at best against the best competition, but that is Asul Almabayev. I think he's ranked 6 or 7, which I think Erceg was ranked 10 when he fought Pantoja for the belt. The reason I picked him is if we're going with somebody who Pantoja has never fought before, and we're not letting him go up, personally, if I could pick what he'd do next, it would be to go up and challenge the winner of Merab and Umar. I think that's what the UFC should do. That would be, that's a super fight. You have champ versus champ. I think he's earned it. He's beat, like I said before, he's beat just about everybody in the top 15 of the division, multiple times, some of them. So I think that's number 1. I think going up for double champ status, he deserves it. That's what my first pick is. If we're going to have him instead defend his flyweight title next, I don't want to see him rematch these guys again. Like, I don't want to see him fight Moreno for the 5th time. I don't want to see him fight Royval for the 3rd time. I don't want to see him fight Kai Kara-France again unless Kai Kara-France gets... If Kai Kara-France had one more top win, give Kai Kara-France... Do him versus Royval. Do him a rematch with Moreno. I don't care. Give him somebody one more win in the top 5, and then, okay, you can get a title shot. I want to see Pantoja fight fresh blood. I want to see him fight people he hasn't fought before, and I'm sure he wants to fight people he hasn't fought before. Almobayev, his last win was Matheus Nicolau, which they now have. He's not in the UFC anymore. But at the time, he was ranked in the top 7 or 8, I believe. So, hasn't fought the best level competition, but he's on a long win streak. I don't have it on the top of my head, but it's a pretty long win streak. There's really nobody else at flyweight that's on a good win streak. I mean, I understand Royval. You know, he's beaten Moreno and Tatsuro Taira, which are 2 solid, great wins. But he's lost twice. I don't want to see it again right now. I'm sorry. I just don't want to see it. If I had to guess, if they're going to make Pantoja fight again at flyweight and not let him try to challenge for the second belt, they'll probably do Brandon Royval just because he kind of derailed the hype train of Tatsuro Taira, and then the fight before that beat 2-time flyweight champion Brandon Moreno. I kind of have a feeling that's who the UFC is going to go with next. But I want a fresh matchup for Pantoja, whether that's at 35 or at 125. And if it's at 125, Asul Almabayev. You know, honestly, if they wouldn't have kicked out Mokaev, you could have gave him the title shot. Maybe he'll get one win outside of the organization, and then they'll bring him back in for a title shot. That'd be nice. I think that would be well-deserved. Let me know what you guys think of these matchups in the comment section down below. If you guys are not subscribed, make sure to subscribe. I'm trying to get to 40 subscribers before the end of the year. I only need one more subscriber. Drop a like on the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.